pack's up. I'm heading home.
So, you've just got yourself a carrier. You're wondering how to use it and what to do with it. Well, this video should help explain everything about carriers for beginners. I'm going to go through services, maintenance, upkeep, a few good ways to make money in the current gaming meta, and everything else you need to know. So, firstly, there will be timestamps in the description to the segments of the video. So I'm going to talk about internal services, basically all the services in one segment, jumping carrier, extra bits and bobs and all that jazz. So, to start off, how do you jump your carrier? You will need to you can do this from your ship as well, but you will need to go to your carrier management. Inside the carrier, this can be found at the terminals or in your your internal panel on your ship. So if you go to carrier management, you can see all the information on your carrier. We'll start off at the top actually, summary. So this here is basically a quick summary of your carrier. You can see how many units it's got in the carrier. You can see what percentage is being taken up by certain things. So 2,417 of my space is being taken up by markets, and then you've got a separate area for the reserved markets. So that reserved is basically talking about basically when you go into management to buy stuff for your carrier, you can set a buy price and all that. So this can go up to 10,000. You can set a buy price up to 10,000, and then you can set the quantity. Now, the reserve price is basically the quantity for the carrier. So if I set this to 2,700 and went back to the summary, you can see the reserve price is set to 2,700. Then you've got installed services. This is basically these type of things to repair, armory and all that. And then you've got basically the free space you still have available. As well, below this you can see the services your carrier has. You can see the security rating of your carrier. You only really need that with secure trading. That's basically the black market. And below, if this system has a carrier administration in it. Now that is important when it comes to the services. For plotting your route, as you can see here, you have I've set a route. You have an estimated departure time. This is set at 15 minutes for me, and then a lockdown timer. Now, when the lockdown gets to 0, no one will be able to leave your ship or board your ship as well. If you are inside the carrier, you'll basically be forced to your captain's seat. Tritium reserves. This is basically how much tritium you have out of the 1,000 units. This doesn't account to the carrier weight, which I'll explain in a minute. So as you can see, after this jump, it will tell you how much I have left after this jump and how many light years I'll be able to jump after the jump. To plot a route, you will simply go into the galaxy map via here, pick a system. Let's just go, for example, this system, and then it would say plot route here, but I've got a jump, so you can cancel jumps and plot them from here. However, if you have previously been to one of the systems, you can go to the system map and set it as a preferred destination. So here you can see this planet is free. You can plot your jump there. However, if I were to plot it, for example, to the main star, you can see there is a red fleet carrier icon. That basically means you won't be able to plot a jump there. Going back out into the menu, the weight of your carrier. Quick summary of the weight. Basically, the heavier your carrier is, the more tritium it will use to jump. What do I mean by weight? I mean the total amount of units you have used on your fleet carrier. Services. For the services, you basically have a load of services. You will need to be in an administration system to add new services to your carrier. So, like here, but here you can see I can't add more services because I'm not in an administration system. But for the services that you have available at the moment, you can suspend and reactivate the services. Now, on the actual services, when you have them active, you can see the upkeep when the service is active. So that's 1.5 million, and then you can suspend it to have a slightly less upkeep. And if you go down to one where it isn't active, you can still see the upkeep. The amount is required, but it will also tell you how much you have to buy it. Now, bartender, this is basically like a commodities market, but for Odyssey, you can set up buy prices for materials that you can find on foot. Back to this. Shipyard, if you have shipyard available, you'll be able to sell ships on your carrier, same with outfitting. Now, livery, a very fun part of the carrier. Here you can set paint for your carrier, engine colours, landing pad colours, your air traffic controls, and your internal layout as well. You can also set your nameplates on the carrier. So you can change these, you can also set them to these. All of these do cost ARC, unfortunately though. So finally you have the carrier layout. This is basically the overall layout of your carrier. Default is Drake class, that looks like this. You've got Fortitude, Victory, let's load that one up. This is the one I have it set to at the moment, and then you have Nautilus. So if we come out of this, few final bits of information for you. When you get your carrier, you will have a default of 500 tritium in the cargo hold, basically where you can jump in the tritium reserves. Now, tritium reserves, there is basically a limit of 1,000 that you can put in there, as you saw earlier, but the tritium reserves does not count towards your total weight of your carrier. Finally, for the actual buying price, it's a normal 5 billion credits to buy the carrier. Now, if you are getting yourself a carrier, I suggest you go for about 6 billion credits. This is because obviously you'll have the weekly upkeep of the carrier, and you can find the weekly upkeep in the budget, and I'll go through this in a second. But basically, weekly upkeep will be taken out of your back carrier's budget funds. I'll go through that in a minute. So, budget of the carrier. Basically, here you can see how much money you have to each area of your carrier. So when you're buying commodities, you can see how much money you are putting towards the commodities you are purchasing. So those commodities set up earlier, I've got just over 4 million. You can see how much you're doing for Concourse Bar, Secure Warehouse, and then you can see the weekly upkeep allocation. Now basically, if I were to move this, this is basically the set amount of upkeep that your carrier will reserve for the upkeep. So as you can see, it's gone up by green and on there. So basically, this amount is basically a set amount that you will not be able to spend on anything but your upkeep. So what upkeep consists of, you've got the core cost, which is basically just the initial cost of having a carrier, that's 5 million credits. Then you've got projected costs, this is basically how much the internal services cost. Then you've got occurred cost, this is basically a load of things including the fuel that your carrier uses, like the fuel that people use when stocking up the ships on your ship. This is also other random little fees, like any potential cuts for the secure warehouse, obviously, and universal cartographics. Then you've got hull maintenance. This is basically what happens when you jump your carrier. Whenever you jump your carrier, it will take 100,000 credits off you, and that's basically your hull maintenance for each jump. It's not much at start, but it adds up. Service taffers. This is basically what you can set the percentage cost that you get from your carrier. So if you were basically, this is basically the money that you can make from your carrier. If you had, for example, the armory set to 0, it would basically be the default cost as it is at the station. So say if it costs 1,000 credits to repair at a station, it'll cost you 1,000 here. But if you set it to 10%, for example, anyone who rearms on your carrier will have to pay 10% more than they would at a station. So, for example, here, if you had 1,000 credits for rearming, your carrier would charge 10% more than 1,000. This money would then go to you, and and it'll basically go into your internals and basically work towards your upkeep. Settings, finally, this allows you to control the docking access, so you can set it to squadron only, friends only, all squadron and friends, or no one. You can set it so you can have notorious commanders dock in. So notorious commanders are basically people that have a notorious level. If it's allowed, anyone with notoriety can dock. If it's not, people with notoriety cannot dock. Current activity, this is basically what your carrier is doing at the moment. I never really changed this personally, I just set it as default, but whenever I go exploring, I do change it to exploration. I'm just going to change it to trader now because I'm going to trade in a minute. Illegal equipment, this is basically allows your carrier, pioneer services on foot. This allows you to sell illegal items such as the e-breach on your carrier. Finally, decommissioning a carrier. Now, when you decommission a carrier, you will not get the amount of money that you bought it for. So at the moment, including all the internal services I have, I will only get just over 5 billion back. It also tells you how long it is until it will be decommissioned, because it basically gets decommissioned on the next Thursday, which is server maintenance, and that is also when your money gets taken for your upkeep. Stored ships, that basically tells you how many ships are on this carrier and how many from other people, and you can then transfer your ships. Now, basically, the more you jump your carrier and the more you use it and the longer you've had it, the amount of a refund you will get for the credits will go down. But that is it for this basic carrier guide. If you think I missed anything or if you have any questions, please do hit me up in the comments and I'll try to reply to as many of you as I can. Thanks for watching this video. Please do like and subscribe if it was helpful, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!